Ready. Okay. So we're live now. I'll just wait. I'll just give it a couple of minutes until 7 o'clock. And then we'll go. So I'll just give a little intro and then we'll get going.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. All right. 7 o'clock. Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us for the first ever episode of Empowered, brought to you by Cancer Warrior Canada Foundation. If you don't know me, my name is Rebecca Durrance Hine. I am a warrior. I'm a founder of a Rent a Cancer community and blog, and I am now your host for the evening. Before we start, I just want to encourage you to send any comments or questions you might have into the comment section below the live stream here. We're going to have about 10 minutes at the end where we'll try to address as many as of the questions as we can, and we'll just be answering them in the order that they come in. So if you do have a question for Ilene that you'd like us to ask, please go ahead and put it in the comments there. So our very first empowered guest is Dillon. Ilene is a psychotherapist and counselor with 50 years of experience working extensively with fear and emotions and learning everything she can about them. Ilene is also the author whose book, Emotions in Motion, Mastering Life's Built-in Navigation System, was just released last year. And on top of everything, she is also a courageous warrior and breast cancer survivor herself. I am thrilled to welcome Ilene and to learn more about her. Thank you so much, Ilene, for being here today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
So why don't we just start by you telling me a little bit about your background and your personal story?
Well, to add to what you just offered, thank you. I'm now 77 years old and I'm living the dream. I'm traveling the US and Canada. I've been in 4 Canadian provinces in my RV, which I've been doing for 3 years. And a lot of people ask me if that takes courage. And I say, no, the only reason you need courage is if you're afraid. And if you're not afraid, you don't need courage, right? And right before I set out on my journey 3 years ago, I received a breast cancer diagnosis and it impacted me. However, that's part of what I'd like to share is how it was that I did deal with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and I'm also a recovered angry person. Being angry is what got me into the emotion business in the first place, because when it started coming out of me in the 1970s, I discovered there was no information. You couldn't find out why we get angry and what emotions are for. And in my quest to deal with the anger, I have developed a system of understanding about emotions, which most people don't have, why we have them and so forth, that applies to all emotions.
Yeah, you're so right. We really don't talk about why we have these emotions, and yet they fill up so much of us and our lives.
They're with us from the time we're born till we die, 24/7, 365, and we don't know much about them at all.
It's so true. So, on
Yeah.
that note, what is emotional mastery, and then how can it be helpful for cancer patients? How did you find it helpful?
Okay, well, let me back step just a minute. There's a format through which I understand the world and how things work. And it's my understanding, the paradigm that I use is that our Earth is a big, giant school. And we are all here in order to learn and grow. And the way we learn is through having experiences. And accompanying all experiences, there is emotion. And so to answer that question, what is emotion for? Emotions are energy. And each emotion has an energy signature that we can put words to. For example, if you feel lonely, the message of loneliness is that you have more energy going out than coming in. And so you need to bring more energy in. So each of these emotions that comes up with our experience, they're designed to help us learn the lessons. Now, most of us don't like to learn lessons. We don't like to change. And so we wait until, and we keep putting it off until we get into pain. And we get into pain because we're resisting letting those emotions flow. Does this make sense to you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so we're busy resisting, and the universe or the powers that be, whoever it is that runs this show, it starts out going, Rebecca, there's something we'd like you to look at. And if you don't look at it, they go, Rebecca, we'd really like you to look at this. And if you still don't look at it, they go, Rebecca, wake up. You see? So
Oh, yeah.
that's where the pain comes from, that we're not paying attention. And emotions are designed to help us learn these lessons. So if you don't learn them, they get harsher and the consequences are more. And the good news is the second you learn them, they're gone. They're finished. You're done with them. So when we start talking about emotional mastery, it's about learning, number one, what emotions are attempting to tell us. Number two, deciding to partner with those emotions so that we can understand what they're trying to help us learn through the experience that they come up with. And that's what emotional mastery is all about. The simple way of saying it is it puts me in charge of emotions as opposed to the emotions being in charge of me.
I really like that. And I think that that's something that resonates with me, particularly with my cancer journey, because you feel it's so out of control when that happens to you and you hear that diagnosis and you have such a crazy range of emotions. So, is that how it can be so helpful to cancer patients? Is because we experience so much during a diagnosis?
Well, yes, it's doing a lot of thinking about this because when I got the diagnosis, I didn't have all those crazy emotions. I was surprised. Uh, there was a part of me that went, but the point is that I've been working with emotions for so long, I knew that I could choose. Now, the reason I want to choose is because the principle is there are two principles that operate. One is what we pay attention to, we feed energy to, and it grows. So if I pay attention to fear, then that fear is going to grow. And when fear is in me, it's going to keep me from being able to make decent decisions, from sleeping, from you name it, running my relationships well, whatever it is that's going on. The other principle is one that I've learned to live by, which is to pay attention to what you want to become and not to what you want to overcome,
Mhm.
right? So when that diagnosis came into me, I'm about ready to take off for my big journey. You know, my husband has died of cancer not a year before. And now it's my turn. And do I go forward with my life, or do I cut back and stay and try to fix things up? In my case, I decided to go forward. It was a small cancer and it was slow growing. And the doctor gave me somebody I could work with as I traveled. So I did keep track of it all the time. But we want to be able to decide, do I want to panic here, or do I want to be terrified? Now, another important thing to know about Rebecca is that one way you can quell fear is by looking at the worst thing that could happen. Well, clearly with cancer, the worst thing that could happen is you could die, right? That's clearly it. And so you need to face that. All right, there's a darn good possibility I could die here. Can I handle that? Can I deal with it? If not, what else do I need to do? Right? The other question that I asked when I got the cancer diagnosis is, oh, what is this cancer in my life? What's it doing? What's it trying to teach me? And what I found was that as my husband was ill for nearly 5 years, I closed down my energy in order to attend to him. I did keep on with my life, but I didn't I wasn't living my life and moving that energy, and it got clogged up, right?
Mhm.
So when I
Absolutely.
went to work with it, one of the things I did was do qigong, which is a Chinese
Mm.
energy medicine
Yes.
activity, right?
That's wonderful. Yeah. Um, so just getting back to the fears that we experience, why is that such a pivotal part of the cancer experience? Is it the fear that we need to learn from, or does it play a different role?
Well, remember, we have the experience and the emotion accompanies it. And the emotion is trying to help us look at it. What is the signal of fear? It says, watch out, you're entering unknown territory. You need to exercise care.
Mhm.
And what do many of us, now this isn't always true, but many of us haven't been loving ourselves enough. We haven't been loving our bodies enough. And that's what I found. I started talking to my body. Okay, so you're talking to me. You're all clogged up and growing extra cells here. What is it that I need to hear from you so that I can help you, so that we can change this? And the message that I got back was, you need to love me more. You need to move me more. You need to pay attention to me, the body.
Mm. Yeah, that rings very true for me too. I had a lot of it's just like a water gate opened, and I couldn't stop this like flow of lessons that just kept occurring to me. And what I ultimately realized was something similar, that I just wasn't loving myself enough. And even more than that, I actually didn't feel myself worthy of love and support unless I
Wow.
had an excuse like cancer. Then it's okay for me to get all of that love and all of that support because I have a good reason for it. But just me on my own, there's no way I deserve that level of support and love. So that was one of the most major things that cancer taught me.
Well, that's a very important point,
Mhm.
because we essentially live our lives based on what we believe. And you're talking about a belief. My belief is that I don't deserve all the
Mhm.
love that I need unless I have something that qualifies me,
Right. Mhm.
right?
Exactly.
And so that was your belief, and we create what we believe. So another important thing to do is to start examining when you get cancer, after you've had cancer, whenever, start examining, because beliefs come, before the age of 12, we download them from other people around us, just like we're a computer. We also have experiences. When you have the same experience over and over, it can coalesce into a belief. When you hear something over and over again, your subconscious mind can't tell the difference whether it's real or not real. But if it hears it enough times, it takes it as real.
Right.
So that's why we need to know. And it's stored in the subconscious mind, where we don't even know what it's doing.
That's right.
And if we look at cancer or any diagnosis, any trauma, a challenge that we have in life, it's digging deep to help us to open up the channels so that we can live fully. And that
Wonderful.
includes looking at the beliefs. I want to
Mhm.
say one other thing, because the biggest emotional issue for me was the reaction of all the people around
Yeah,
me.
that was going to be my next question. Yeah.
Ah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. I just wanted to say that I have six children, three stepchildren, one adopted, and two birth. I think that adds up to six. Um, and they had lost other people through cancer. My father died of cancer. My stepmother had cancer 5 times. My older sister died of cancer. My husband's ex-wife, the mother of my stepchild, she died of cancer. My sister died in my home, and my husband died of cancer. So there was plenty of reason for me to take cancer very seriously. But one thing that's important is to realize that we're not responsible for other people's emotions or
Hmm.
their reactions or what they pay attention to. I had one person close to me saying, uh, I'm having nightmares. You're going to die from this.
Oh,
Another person was telling me perhaps I'm demented because I wasn't behaving the way they thought I should.
Mm.
Another person told me, I'd get that thing cut out of me right away, and I don't know why you're not. And this is a medical person. So I said, why would you do it right away? And I was told because I couldn't stand the tension, the worry. And I said, I don't have any of that. So I don't need to do that. But each of these, so people were saying, we want you to deal with the cancer this way so we will feel better.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that wanted to help them feel better, but another part of me that realized this is the cancer that I have manifested in my body. This is my lesson, and I need to deal with it the way it's right for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a one of the major things that I talk about, and it really has been a foundational part of my healing too, is I really had to step into my own, which was new and scary for me. I call myself a recovering people pleaser, and I just always wanted to
You will
do
make it all the way. You will.
all the way. I'll get there. But I really just always wanted to do exactly what other people, I thought other people wanted me to do, and that was
Mhm.
something else cancer kind of forced out of me, was I had to stand my ground and say, no, this feels right for me and this doesn't feel right for me. So
Right.
if people are experiencing that level of fear, either from themselves or from other people,
Mhm.
and they feel like they're maybe being forced in a direction that they don't necessarily want to go in, or that they feel isn't right, how can they start to, I guess, mitigate that fear or work with that fear? um yeah.
There's a very simple little exercise I developed many years ago. I was pregnant and I'd been working really hard, and I went to visit my ex-husband's grandmother in her new nursing home. And she started complaining about people are taking my things. There's so much noise. She was miserable.
uh,
And I had no power. There was nothing I could do for her. But it also was miserable for me to keep listening to her, right?
uh-huh.
And so I developed this little technique. I said in my own mind, not out loud, that's you over there in that body having the life you've created for yourself. This is me in this body with the life I'm having. That's you over there. You're having your experience. I'm here having mine. And it's very simple, but it really separates you so that you can live your own life. And, these are people usually that are in your family and they really care about you. And you don't want to say, just get out. I mean, eventually what I did was decide I wasn't going to keep my family informed of what I was doing, because every time I did, there was a big hullabaloo, and I needed to stay positive to deal with what I was dealing with, right? So we don't really want to cut them off. So we can ask them, please, I know you're having emotional reactions, but could you do that with somebody besides me? Because I really need to focus on myself. And I know you love me and you want me to do everything I can to get better.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's the help I need from you. So need to get really clear. And then if they don't do it, you need to be willing to walk away or hang up the phone. And you can tell them ahead of time, I'm not doing this out of hatefulness.
Right.
I'm doing this because I need to take care of myself. So be aware if I hang up the phone, it's because I need to focus on myself.
And I think we, as people, in general, I think we have a tendency to be afraid to do that, to say, people maybe they'll think where I'm rude or whatever. But I really, like, cancer is really one of those times you have to
Yeah.
say, this, I really need to focus on me.
Well, see what a powerful teacher it is, the
Mhm.
cancer experience.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful, you have to pay attention to yourself. You have to give some positive energy. You have to learn to ask for help. You have to learn to receive help. You have to
Mhm.
learn to set boundaries.
Yeah.
You have to learn to insist that you get what's exactly right for you. And those are all bound up with emotions. And yet those are the things that cancer, in my opinion, is trying to teach us.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree. So, what if that fear is instead of coming from somebody else, and we may have already touched here and there, but I just want to make sure it's really clear for people who are listening. If that fear is coming from inside of us instead of from somebody else, what are some ways that we can mitigate that in like right now, but maybe also long term as well?
Well, when I turned 50, I want to share this with you. When I turned 50, I had literally been afraid my whole life. My birth mother was taken away from me before I was 3 years old, and my dad was in the military. We traveled hither and yon. I mean, I had a lot of things, and I'd been afraid. And I'd been successful in dealing with anger. So I thought, well, let me see what I could do with fear, because I'm tired of being afraid. So I want to share with you and everyone who's watching what it is that I discovered. And it's possible you can use it if you'd like, but it's been profound. I discovered this 27 years ago, and it's taken me to the place where I now live fearlessly, even when cancer hits, even when I'm swimming with a jaguar. I have a picture of me doing that in the ocean. No fear. So what I did is I thought, okay, let's take a look. On the earth, there are opposites. There's hard and soft. There's light and dark. What's the opposite of fear? Right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people say it's love. Okay, maybe so. But for me, what I came up with was the opposite is faith. When I'm and it's not the kind of faith that's a religious faith. It's the faith we have when we put our head on the pillow at night and think we're going to wake up the next morning.
I
That
love
kind of
that.
faith,
Yeah.
right? And so you can't be in dark and light at the same time. So you can't be in fear and faith at the same time,
Yeah.
right? And the human mind goes to the worst possible first. So inevitably, we're in fear first. So the question becomes, once I'm in fear, how do I get over to faith?
Yeah.
Right? So I made up this technique just to see, I needed something that was bigger than me. So I used the concept of God, but you can use anything. The idea was I didn't want to be able to argue, right? That's why I did this. So my technique is this. Whenever I notice that I'm afraid, I ask myself, what if I had a written guarantee from God that everything is going to work out and I'm going to be okay? Then what would I be paying attention to? What decision would I make? And what actions would I take? Right? What if I had a written guarantee? What would I be paying attention to? What decisions would I make and what actions would I take?
Yes.
And very slowly, when I was 50, when fear would come in, and believe me, I was afraid every day, I would say, okay, what if I had a written guarantee? What about this? Now, in reality, we can't have this written guarantee. It's just a mnemonic or a little device to help us refocus, to get different kind of perception. So I began very small. Okay. And the bottom line is, when you feel like you have a written guarantee from something that's so much bigger than you basically keep going.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't stop. You don't look right or left. You don't fold up because you are afraid. You go, well, it's at least 50-50 chance it's going to work out. And so I'm going forward. That's what I want to focus on becoming. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly. Like what
Okay.
you said before, focus on
Right.
what you want to become versus overcome.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that helped me to start focusing. And again, about 22 years later, I went on this trip with my sister. I had a chance to swim with a full-grown jaguar in the ocean and pose with pictures. I've got pictures. And I thought, this is a physical danger. I am likely, and I also went zip lining on that trip. I'm 73 years old. I'm likely to be afraid, right? There was not a second of fear. Over the time of just doing this a little at a time, the fear, now you can't get rid of emotions.
Right.
So there is some fear, but it's there. I want to find that. But it's this big, not this
Yeah,
big.
huge. Right.
Okay.
Right.
And you can choose. So so this issue, say, when once you have been diagnosed with cancer, it can always come back,
Exactly. Or get
right?
worse. Yeah.
And so we live with an edge of fear.
Mm-hmm.
So with this approach, what I was able to do is say, okay, if I get sick again and I die, can I deal with that?
Yeah.
That's the worst possible thing. I decided I could. Do I, in the meantime, want to live in fear? No, thank you. So I'm going to turn this over to the powers that be, to God. You take care of me. I'm going to live my life as if it's not coming back, because
Mm.
that's what I want to become.
Yes.
It's now been 3 years.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So if people do have this fear, because it's quite overwhelming, and if we haven't been working for many years to deal with that kind of fear as you had, sort of when cancer
Mhm.
happened to you, is it just like, because it sounds almost like an affirmation almost, right? Like the same sort of repetitive, you're convincing yourself on a deep level that this
You're
is true.
creating a new belief,
Right,
right?
right. So if
Right.
people are new to this concept, is that um what can they start with, I guess? What's their first starting
Well,
space?
the very first thing, and I really believe in this, is to ask for help.
Mm,
I need help in not going into fear,
right.
because this is the big C, and that's the first place I'm going. And I really don't want to go there. So will you please help me? And not to know anybody that you've asked, who it is that you ask. You don't know who it is. You assume that there's somebody out there that wants to help you. And that happened for me many years ago. I was dating a man who was writing a book. He was independently wealthy, and he and I lived a distance apart, and I was a single parent, and so our relationship was on the phone. And he would talk to me every day and say, "Oh, I had a great day writing today. I asked my angels for their help, and they really helped me, and I was able to phrase it this way."
Right.
He kept it up, and I found myself getting annoyed with him. And finally, I said to him, "John, are you telling me that you ask people you can't see for help and they give it to you?" And he said, "Sure." And I said, "John, I can't even ask people I can see for help. How do you do this?" And he said, "I just ask.
Mm,
You should try it." This was fully almost 50 years ago,
wow.
right? And so the next time I had to wait until my back was up against the wall and I was really stressed and really afraid. And I went, "Okay, I need help. I need not to be afraid here." And I was immediately calm. It was
Wow.
the most amazing thing. And
Mm.
to this day, I don't know who it was who helped me, but I was immediately calm. So we can ask for help. I would also suggest that if you feel right about this technique that I developed about, what if I had a written guarantee, that you start doing that, because you will be building it. And as I see, it's been 27 years. I built it
Right.
to the point where I don't even have to think about it anymore. So it's not only for now, it's for whatever may come later,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Whatever it is. So it's one of those things we just kind of have to work on daily,
Every
building that
time every
foundation.
time we're afraid, every
Yeah.
time you're afraid, well, okay, if I had a written guarantee from God, what would I be paying attention to? What decisions would
Yeah.
I make?
It's like reprogramming the way you're thinking about
Right.
fear and the situation. Totally.
Because
Yeah.
what most people say is, "Oh, we all get afraid."
Right.
Yes, well, that's just what we have to deal
Yeah.
with. And my reaction is bullpucky, trying to say it politely.
Yes. No. Yeah, I think sometimes we accept the negative emotions because they've always been a part of our life and we just don't know any different. It's like when you if you finally start sleeping well after years of not sleeping well, and you realize, oh, I could have felt this good, this is what it actually feels like to feel rested. I thought I was before, but this is, yeah, it's like a new reality.
So let me just lay a little groundwork for what you just said. I want you who are watching, I want you, Rebecca, to know that I was fearful, angry, jealous, guilty, depressed for years and years and years. You don't have to have a clean bill of health emotionally to do this stuff. And that's what I write about in my book, Emotions in Motion, too, is, we get homework assignments when we're kids, however people deal emotionally, those are our homework assignments. They play out during our adult life.
Wow. Yeah.
And we humans are designed to resolve these homework assignments. We're supposed to get them.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of feel that way about cancer on like a really huge scale, that it was something that I really needed to help me become who I was supposed to be, or help me even just live the life that I was capable of living, but just didn't realize that I could.
So cancer is just one thing. I had a 13-year internet radio program, and I interviewed a lot of people. It was called Full Power Living. A lot of people who have horrible things happen to them, they nearly die or they get knocked to their knees, and then they start building up again, and eventually they wrote a book, and then they wanted to be on my radio program. This is how it works. If I don't know what the occasion for various things, but if you lose your job, if your house burns down, if your child has a traumatic brain injury, if you get cancer, all of these kinds of things, actually these things have happened in my family in the last few years here in California. If those things happen, they are an opportunity for you to learn and get stronger and move past them.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to get to some questions if anyone has any in a couple minutes. So if you do have one, make sure you put that question in the comments. Before we do, since you were, just talking about all of these potential traumatic or scary situations, right now, of course, in the world, there's a whole lot of fear and anxiety with COVID and just, with everything that's happening. There's so much happening right now with all of the race riots that are happening in the US and everyone being in quarantine, and we've been in quarantine for so long, and it feels like everything is just kind of amplified. And it kind of relates, I think, to what you were saying before about where your attention focuses. That's what grows. So right now, how can people start to maybe shift that focus? Because it's coming at us from all angles right now. Every time you turn on the news or you go on Facebook or social media, it's something like that. So how do we kind of turn the volume down on that?
Well, let me explain one little thing first. As a psychotherapist, I've had thousands of people come to me wanting to make change, and some of them had really big changes to make. And what I observed over time is that before people could make change, they fell apart. The old patterns had to fall apart. And what I'd like to suggest that we look at is that's what's happening in our world. We need to make major changes, whether it's race relations, how much we love our bodies, how we deal with illness, whether we take full responsibility, who we vote for. We have to change our patterns, or we're not going to make it. So the first thing is to understand that all this breaking down is a good thing. It's a good thing because it's clearing the way for us to focus on what we want to become. So the very best thing we could do is start looking at what kind of a world do I want to live in? And what part would I like to play in that? Who would I like to support as that gets built up? That's where we need to be putting our attention, and then we will be creating what we want to become. When we do that and we don't focus a lot on what we want to overcome, what happens is what we want to overcome atrophies and falls away. We don't have to get rid of it.
Right.
And that's important to know.
Yes, that is very important to know. Yeah, absolutely. Would you be able to tell us what you feel like the most important or impactful thing you have learned about maybe fear and cancer, or just, fear and emotion in general?
Wow, the most impactful.
Might be hard.
Well, it's all impactful is the thing.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I get all excited about is that emotions are not difficult to work with. You can teach kids to deal with emotions. They say things like, anger says, you've got an idea of how things are supposed to be in this world and it's incorrect and you need to make a change. And fear says, you're going into unknown territory, so be careful. And love says, come closer, right? Every emotion, and these are all, there are 12 of them in my book if people want that. And there's an e-form too that's only $10 US. So, people could get it. So the exciting thing is that they're always talking to us and they're friends and they don't go away. And even if we ignore them, they stick around, and they stay with us always. And so all we need to do is go, okay, I'm in school. I agree. I will learn. Okay, what is this emotion telling me? Let me see how I can apply it in this situation. I can ask for help. Help me to learn what I need to learn here. Can I give you do we have time for a success story?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's about me, but many years ago, my son, I was a single parent, and then my daughter left home, and then I had my son, and he was supposed to be with me for another 2 years. And he suddenly decided he wasn't happy in high school. We found a school for him across the US in Massachusetts. And within about 2.5 months, he was gone. And because of the trauma of my own early childhood, I had found that when changes came along, I couldn't make decisions. So all of a sudden, my son is leaving, and I can't make decisions. I can't even figure out when I can meet with somebody in therapy the next week. My brain's not working. So I finally sat down and said, okay, I'm tired of going through this. I'm in my 50s now, and I'm tired of going through it. So please, I'm ready, whatever it takes. I'm ready to learn what it is that keeps me from being able to make decisions. Please show me what I need to learn. And every day I ask that. And on the 5th day at 4:30 in the morning, I was awakened with some words going through my head. The words were, love the changes. I thought, what the heck does that mean? As I examined it, it meant that I needed to be more like a little child. If a little child is in the dining room playing and an adult walks through and says, I'm going to the store, what does the child do? Can I come? Can I come? The child is immediately ready for change. And I was resisting change, and resistance is our biggest problem in life. And so what these words were telling me is that I needed to go back and be like a little child and welcome the change that was coming into my life instead of trying to close it down. Right?
Yes.
And let me tell you what the two main changes were. I got my first contract to write a book, and I got a new husband.
Wow.
Not too bad.
Not too bad at all.
Just one son traded for one husband. No, not really. They got along really well.
Good. Good. I just saw that we had a question come in from somebody. So let me just go to that. So she says, so needed to hear all of this. This is from Karen. Hi, Karen. So needed to hear all this. I'm so struggling with fear and depression from a diagnosis of triple negative breast cancer in January. What would be your top suggestion for moving beyond the tears and fear?
Dealing with that depression. So let me tell you something about depression. Guilt and depression are hidden forms of anger, Karen.
Mm.
And so, and depression is anger that we fear we will get in trouble for expressing. Usually, it's really is fear of what we might have gotten into trouble for expressing when we were children, right? So, what you first need to do, and you don't have to tell anybody about this, that you're doing it, is you need to just start, I'm angry. There's a little exercise. I'm angry. I'm angry. I'm angry. I'm angry. I'm angry that I have this diagnosis. I'm angry. I'm angry. I'm angry that it's such a big diagnosis. I'm angry. I'm angry that I have to deal with this all by myself. You follow? You want to keep that sequencing, that chanting up, but let all those things out, right? You can also, if you can't talk, get a huge piece of newsprint and scribble on it with crayons and make noises, right? And then tear it up and either burn it or throw it into an outside container. What you need to do is get that anger out of you and acknowledge the anger. Anger really accompanies cancer. It's a big companion of cancer. So probably this would be helpful for all of us who have this diagnosis. Get that anger out of you. Give yourself permission to explore it, to release it, to not hold on to it, to say the things that you really want to say. Guilt is anger that you feel like you don't have a right to have, by the way. And these are also in my book. So if you want to read more about it, I really recommend Emotions in Motion.
Great.
I think it's a great book. I enjoy reading it.
Yes.
I forget what I write, so I like to
there's
go back.
Wonderful nuggets of wisdom in there for sure. Yeah. That's great advice. And I've just noticed in the comments, not really a question, but someone said when we were talking about change and sort of loving the change and embracing the change, they said, but change is scary and change isn't easy. So maybe what would be your advice to someone who feels that way about change right now, that loving it just seems so far out of the realm of possibility?
So let me talk, Rebecca, for a minute about how people usually deal with change that's offered to them. We try to hide from it, ignore it, push it away, whatever. And every time we do, as we discussed earlier, our pain increases because because we're resisting. And resistance creates a buildup of energy, and that energy creates pain, right?
Right.
So most people, as I've seen in my therapy practice, wait until the pain of where they are is so great, they think it wouldn't be any worse if they made the change. And the one thing that I have discovered is that if you really accept that this is a school and that once a lesson is brought up to your attention, it's not going away, then the best thing you can do is turn around and go, yes, a lesson, let's learn it now.
Right.
Because as soon as you learn it, it's done. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think it also maybe comes back a bit to sort of developing or creating that new belief that we were talking about before, and applying that to change, right?
Right.
Sort of teaching yourself that, change can be a good thing.
I can't say it enough. I was so clogged with negativity and fear and fear of being rejected for most of my life, and low self-esteem and all of this. And none of it is there anymore. Once I embrace that I'm in school and I start looking for the lessons and I ask for help and I learn the lessons and I move on. Oh my gosh, people ask me, how's COVID-19 for you? It's been like a vacation for me. My son and daughter-in-law invited me to come and live with them. They said, please grow our vegetable garden for us. They won't let me pay for any food or anything like that, right? They have a swimming pool. We've got beautiful trees out, and I'm doing my own work. What could be better? That's where my life has gotten to. I used to be abused, a victim, afraid of being rejected, not welcome anywhere, etc., etc.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I am a test case for whether this works or not.
That's wonderful. And Karen's asking if you still offer therapy sessions.
I do, yes.
So how can someone work with you?
Okay, I'm licensed for therapy in California. If you're not in California, I can't do therapy with you.
Oh.
However, coaching is not
therapy,
done like that. Right. And my therapy is very close to coaching, and I do coaching also.
Okay.
So you can write me, my first name, Ilene, at Emotional Mastery for Life. Just write me. And I've had a run on therapy. I think COVID-19 is driving people. So yeah. I hope to fit you in. If you want therapy, if you want to do coaching or whatever with me, get to me soon, because my calendar is filling.
And we've
who knew it? 77,
who knew?
You know?
And we've put Eileen's website there at the bottom of the screen if anyone would also like to check that out.
And thank you for asking too.
Yes, yes. So I think that's about all the time that we have, Ilene, but I just want to thank you so much for speaking with me today and for sharing with everyone here. It's been really helpful. For me, I'm sure it's been helpful for everybody else who's watching. And for everyone who is watching, thank you so much for tuning in for this very first episode. We were so excited to present this, and we hope you found it helpful and beneficial. Just for one more time, Eileen's book is called Emotions in Motion, Mastering Life's Built-in Navigation System, and you can find that on Amazon in ebook version, like Eileen mentioned. If you would like to learn more about me and Orenda Cancer Community and blog, you can visit my website at orendablog.ca, or you can find us on Facebook. It's just Orenda Cancer Community. I post there extensively about integrative cancer care. It's really for cancer patients, past and present, caregivers, everybody. And of course, Empowered is brought to all of you wonderful people by Cancer Warrior Canada Foundation, which is an organization that works to raise awareness about the prevention of cancer, as well as participating in raising awareness and funds for cancer research and for families in need. And with these uncertain times that are going on right now, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are in need, and Cancer Warrior Canada Foundation is stepping up to help families who are suffering from cancer and whose suffering is being amplified by COVID-19 right now. So if you or anyone that you know is in need of some assistance or help, you can go to the Cancer Warrior Canada Foundation Facebook page, to the website, and the number on the bottom is on the bottom of the screen right now if you'd like to call that number, and we can get some help for you from Cancer Warrior Canada Foundation.
Thank you very much for allowing me to share my message with the people.
Thank you, Ilene. It's really, yeah, it's really, really wonderful, honestly. And I think it's a really new, or maybe people have not heard of before, this way of working with fear. And it really is, it's such a major emotion that we deal with, and it's such an impactful one. So thank you so much for your wisdom. I'm sure it's been very helpful for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody, we'll be back with a new episode of Empowered soon. So keep an eye on the Cancer Warrior Canada Foundation Facebook page for details on that. Okay, thank you again so much, Ilene, and have a great night, everybody.
Bye.